Trudeau, the radical, that is the topic of tonight's Byline. He looks like a nice guy. He's certainly got great hair, charming smile, and the ladies just love him. And, well, generally, when he's not talking about how much he loves basic dictatorships, he speaks well. But I think it's important to remember that Justin Trudeau is a radical and is surrounded by radicals with his inner circle. Trudeau himself has a history of comments that should raise eyebrows. Check out this one from the Montreal Gazette in February 2007. It is on environmental issues. He says, "We've never been willing to take the hit that is required to give up quality of life," Trudeau said, who blamed the wealthy with their big cars and houses for using more than their proportionate share of resources. That's the end of the quote from the newspaper article. Really? The wealthy with their big cars and houses? Do I need to remind you that Trudeau grew up here at 24 Sussex Drive before moving to the family mansion in Montreal? I mean, check out this. This is Art Deco on the outside. You've got to see the foyer on the inside. This is an historic monument in Quebec. This is opulence defined. They are both opulent houses. And Trudeau recently sold his family home in Montreal, not that one, but another, for a cool $890,000. Where did he and his family move? Well, Trudeau note-taker Glenn McGregor was handed all the details and reported on the house without giving away the address. He said Trudeau and wife Sophie Gregoire sold their house in Montreal's Côte-des-Neiges neighborhood in June and have rented a 6-bedroom Rockcliffe home owned by a banker. So we, the little people, we need to take a hit. We need to give up quality of life, but he's going to live in a 6-bedroom house with a 15,000 square foot lot. That's more than a third of an acre in the richest part of Ottawa. All, of course, while driving this car, the luxury Mercedes, valued at $400,000. And that's the bottom end of the valuation. I wonder what the mileage is on a 300 SL. I mean, probably not good. It's probably not environmentally friendly. But when Trudeau told the Gazette that we need to give up quality of life, he was talking about you. He wasn't talking about him. He's like David Suzuki. He's like Al Gore. Young Trudeau wants you to change. He doesn't want to change. He told the Sudbury Star this in 2007. On an individual level, people should look at their own consumption and realize the choices we make every day affect the bigger picture. Think about everything you buy. Think about everything you spend, about every decision you make, and start to fix it within a larger context, Trudeau said. That again was Trudeau talking about you changing your life. All he plans on doing is moving from one mansion to the next. Trudeau's surrounded by environmental radicals as well. There's Harvey Locke. He was the star Liberal candidate who ran in Calgary Centre in the by-election in 2012. Trudeau endorsed him. Trudeau campaigned for him. Want to know what Harvey Locke endorses and campaigns for? Setting aside half the continent for what's called rewilding. This is a United Nations Agenda 21 program taken to the extreme. Many proponents don't want just giant nature preserves. They want half the continent to be a completely wild, no-go zone for humans. No roads, no trains, not even flights going overhead. This is what the plan would look like, by the way, a large corridor on the west coast from Yukon to Mexico, another across the Arctic, and another large corridor on the east coast. That's a lot of no-go zones for people, kind of anti-people, isn't it? The whole agenda? Shouldn't be shocking, though. That's part of environmentalism today, isn't it? That people are the problem? We need to get rid of people. Trudeau has a ton of greenies on his team, from Mike McNair, who helped write Stéphane Dion's green shift policy. You might remember that as the tax on everything. To, Marlo Reynolds. He's running in Banff, Alberta. Reynolds used to head up the Anti-Oil Sands Pembina Institute. He's got Christina Topp, the Liberal Party's top fundraiser. She used to be the chief fundraiser for the anti-human Animal First World Wildlife Fund, which, funny enough, is also where Trudeau plucked his top dog from, Gerald Butts. Butts was head of the World Wildlife Fund after leaving Dalton McGuinty's office, where he was a key aide to Ontario's Liberal Premier. Butts actually helped develop Ontario's green energy program, the one that made lots of Liberal insiders wealthy with contracts for wind and solar, while at the same time chasing away jobs from Ontario, shutting down industry, and hitting families where it hurts. Yep, the guy that brought you the giant overpriced contracts for Samsung, green energy at up to 20 times the cost of conventional energy, he's the man who's closest to the future Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau. There have been lots of profiles of Butts in the media lately, and the media party, they're all glorifying Trudeau's close friend and advisor. In a puff piece on the weekend, the Ottawa Citizen quoted Butts making this comment about why the World Wildlife Fund opposed the Northern Gateway pipeline. It's not just that they don't like the route, they don't want any pipelines, and they don't want any oil.
Truth be told, we don't think there ought to be a carbon-based energy industry by the middle of this century. That's our policy in Canada, and it's our policy all over the world.
Yeah. That's a pretty radical statement in my books, but how did the Citizen follow that statement? Their very next line? But he was far from a radical. A man who lives in Toronto but commutes to Ottawa and wants the rest of us off of oil is not a radical to these folks. A man who would design an energy program that would see his friends enriched and your bill go up and up and up. Well, to the media party, he's just a swell guy. Lots of people dismiss Justin Trudeau as a lightweight and a less than serious contender to take power in the next election. I think that's dangerous. Not only because Trudeau can win the next election, but because the man himself has dangerous ideas and he's surrounded by smart people that also have dangerous ideas. You'll remember the Trudeau gaffe on China, the one where he said he admired them.
You know, there's a level of admiration I actually have for China, because their basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn their economy around on a dime and say we need to go green as fast as.
Did you catch that? He said he admired them because their basic dictatorship allowed them to go green fast. Now, that is factually inaccurate. China is not going green, but Trudeau likes the command and control aspects of the dictatorship. He, like all good progressives, wants control. What you have to ask is, what should you be looking for? What you should be looking for is, what would Trudeau do with that kind of control when he takes power? What would Mike McNair or Harvey Locke or Gerald Butts encourage him to do with that control in the name of their radical environmental agenda? Would they tax everything with a carbon tax to encourage you to make do with less while they commute between cities and live in luxurious six-bedroom homes? Would they strip away your property rights to bring about a massive rewilding effort, turning large parts of the country into no-go zones, not just for the oil and gas companies that they hate, but also for people, for you, for me? These are the questions, the type of questions that need to be asked. These are the people and ideas you and your family and friends need to know about before we let Trudeau and company loose with their radical agenda. And that's the byline.